Ma'am. I know that missing child. The words fell softly, almost swallowed by the noise of the city, yet they struck like thunder. The millionaire woman froze where she stood, her manicured hand still gripping the cold metal railing outside the police station. For 3 years she had lived on hope and denial, on sleepless nights and endless searches, on whispered prayers she barely believed anymore. And now a girl, thin, dusty, eyes too old for her young face, stood before her and spoke the sentence that shattered the wall she had built around her heart. The woman's name was Aisha Rahman, a name known across business magazines and charity galas. She owned glass towers, luxury hotels, and a foundation that fed thousands. But none of that mattered anymore. In that moment, she was not a millionaire, not a public figure, not a symbol of success. She was simply a mother whose world had ended the day her 5-year-old daughter, Zara, vanished from a crowded park. Aisha turned slowly, afraid that if she moved too fast the moment would disappear like all the false leads before it. "What did you say?" she asked, her voice barely holding together. The girl swallowed. Her clothes were worn, her hair tied back with a frayed ribbon. "I said, I know that missing child. I've seen her." Aisha's breath left her in a shaky rush. Around them, people moved, talked, laughed, lived their ordinary lives, unaware that a miracle, or another heartbreak, was unfolding on the steps of the station. 3 years earlier, Zara had been everything bright in Aisha's life. After losing her husband in an accident, Zara became her reason to wake up, to fight, to build. The day Zara disappeared was supposed to be simple. Ice cream, balloons, a few hours in the park before sunset. Aisha had turned her head for less than a minute. Less than a minute was all it took. The police searched. Volunteers searched. Cameras flashed, posters spread, rewards were announced. "Millionaire's daughter missing," the headlines screamed. But weeks turned into months, and months into years. Leads dried up. Calls stopped coming. The world moved on, but Aisha could not. She funded search teams long after the case went cold. She visited orphanages, shelters, hospitals, convinced that Zara might be hidden in plain sight. Every little girl with similar eyes made her heart stutter. Every disappointment carved another scar, and now this girl, this stranger, stood before her, claiming to know what no one else did. "What's your name?" Aisha asked, kneeling so they were eye to eye. "Samra," the girl replied. "I'm 12. Where have you seen her?" Samra hesitated, her fingers twisting the ribbon in her hair. "In a place where children don't have names anymore. Just numbers." The words sent a chill through Aisha. "Take me there," she said without thinking. The police insisted on protocol, on statements and details, but something in Samra's eyes told a story deeper than fear. Eventually, with officers accompanying them, they drove toward the edge of the city, where wealth thinned and shadows grew longer. As the car moved, Samra spoke in fragments. She talked about a building near the old industrial area, about men who watched closely, about children who cried quietly at night so they wouldn't be punished. She talked about a little girl with a birthmark shaped like a crescent near her ear. Aisha pressed her hand to her mouth to keep from sobbing. Zara had that birthmark. They stopped a block away from a crumbling warehouse. The air smelled of rust and neglect. Police moved cautiously, radios crackling. Aisha's heart pounded so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. When the doors were forced open, chaos erupted. Shouts, footsteps, the sound of chains hitting the floor. Children scattered, fear etched on their faces. In the corner, huddled against a wall, was a girl clutching a torn blanket. Aisha knew her instantly. "Zara," she whispered. The girl looked up, her eyes wide, unsure. Years had passed. She was taller, thinner, her innocence bruised by time. But when their eyes met, something flickered, recognition struggling through the fog. "Mama?" Zara said, the word fragile as glass Aisha broke. She crossed the distance in seconds, gathering her daughter into her arms, sobbing into her hair, kissing her face as if to make up for every lost day. Zara clung to her, crying with a sound that carried 3 years of pain around them. Officers worked, freeing children, arresting those responsible. Samra stood quietly nearby, watching with a small, uncertain smile. Later, at the hospital, as doctors checked Zara and blankets were wrapped around her, Aisha found Samra sitting alone in the hallway. You saved my daughter, Aisha said, her voice thick with gratitude. Samra shook her head. I just told the truth. Why? Samra looked down. Because once, when I was scared and alone, she shared her bread with me. She told me her mother would come for her. She believed it every day. I thought, if I ever got free, I'd help her. Aisha sat beside her, tears filling her eyes again. You're free now too. The days that followed were filled with healing and adjustment. Zara woke up screaming some nights, afraid the darkness would take her back. Aisha slept beside her, holding her hand, whispering promises she intended to keep. But Aisha couldn't forget Samra. She learned that Samra had no family waiting for her, no safe place to return to. Without hesitation, Aisha opened her home and her heart. The media told the story as a miracle. The missing child found. The brave girl who spoke up. But what they didn't see were the quiet moments: Zara learning to laugh again, Samra learning to trust, Aisha learning that love multiplied when shared. Months passed. Then a year. The scars didn't vanish, but they softened. Zara went back to school. Samra discovered a love for books and dreams she'd never dared to have. Aisha transformed her foundation, focusing on rescuing and protecting vulnerable children, determined that no child would ever feel forgotten again. One evening, as the three of them sat watching the sunset from the balcony, Zara leaned against her mother and asked, Mama, did you ever stop looking for me? Aisha kissed her forehead. Never. Not even for a second. Samra smiled quietly, understanding something deep and powerful, that hope, when held tightly enough, could change lives. The world had once seen Aisha Rahman as a woman who had everything. But she knew the truth now. Wealth could build towers, but courage could break chains. Love could cross years of darkness. And sometimes, the smallest voice could deliver the greatest miracle. The story spread far and wide, inspiring parents to hold their children closer, strangers to listen more carefully, and societies to protect the most fragile among them. It reminded everyone that even in the deepest shadows, kindness could light the way home. And it all began with a trembling sentence spoken by a brave girl on a crowded street. Ma'am, I know that missing child.